Greetings, I am Lies.
And I am Scandal.
And let's find out what illness we're talking about together.
Honestly,
I don't know. I mean,
this is such a weird line of inquiry. I don't understand.
Like
the way that this pathing has taken, like the way that the language is to get to this point is bizarre.
It's true. I would say, I
Bizarre.
I know that in a lot of cases, people will ask if you have a chronic illness or something, hey, what is it? And I grew up in an environment with a lot of chronic illnesses around me because my mom was chronically ill, still is chronically ill, but I don't live with her anymore. So,
right.
I would say, but I always try and want to correct that, going, she was, and she still is. But I'm not there.
Right? You're like, but it's not a thing that's around.
So
me
it's not part of my life as much.
Yes.
I would say, but like it is very common to ask people, but I think it's less common to like ask them in this formal of a way. Or again, we might just be missing cultural context here, where it's just extremely sort of formal approach of what illness are you talking about? Not, oh, what have you got, or what's going on with you, or oh man, what kind of symptoms do you have, or whatever it is. Like something way more casual of going, dude, what are you sick with, or why are you here?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you in for?
Might be the congenial stuff. So, you look very at home in the hospital. What are you in for?
Right.
All right. What illness are you talking about? Rena shrugs.
IDK, my BFF Jill.
She doesn't know her own illness. I need to really press the nurses for that information so I can tell her so she knows, because they couldn't tell her. So it'd have to be that roundabout 3-step thing, not, me telling them to tell her what's actually wrong with her. On the other hand, I don't know. If you're a minor, do you have to have full information about your condition, or can your parents keep that from you?
I think you would need to know, because the doctors would want to talk to you about it, not just the parents.
But as I understand it, parents can actually get in the way of that and go, I don't want you to talk about these kinds of details or this kind of stuff. Or parents get to decide when you're old enough, and sometimes they just, like, I guess I've never,
but I'm like, there's also a lot of people, though, who are really, like, afraid of doctors in a lot of ways. Like, the thing is that a lot of people seem to have this belief that basically you have no control over your medical life at all. So there's just sort of whatever your doctor says to you, you just have to put up with it. And it's kind of like, you really don't. You're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to you are entitled to your own experience.
Yeah.
Like, in asking questions and trying to figure things out. But
Getting
I'm like,
more details.
And it's like, in this case, if Rena's parents have gotten in the way, that seems really odd. Again,
it depends on how young she is. I've heard a number of parents, just, in the sphere around me, talk about how, they have this thing going on with their kid or whatever, and going, but I don't want them to talk about it or think about it until they get older, basically.
Right.
Or, they don't need to know all the details until, they're a certain age.
Which I just find to be really weird, because...
But more than that, I've heard people going, I don't want my kid to know about your kid's medical thing.
Really?
Yes.
But
anyway, I've been in a lot of daycares, so there we go.
That's okay. Right. I really haven't, so you're going to have to forgive me. I'm just like, I haven't had a lot of exposure.
So low-income people, they babysit. Because anyone will hire you to babysit. And
I had 2 older brothers, so they got to babysit. There was no anybody.
That would be you babysitting.
Oh. I tried to do the babysitting thing, but I could never get around to doing it.
Okay. Anyway, I had more babysitting jobs than I could ever take, as well as people offering, daycare or, work in, volunteer situations or whatever. Anyway, I don't do it now. But Rena shrugs. What if she doesn't know? Oh my God!
I thought it was gonna get hyper specific.
Honestly,
I was waiting for it to be super specific, and now it's just.
They really are like. He won't describe any of his dreams, aspirations, hopes, or wishes. No one will be specific about anything. They're like, this whole game is a blank slate to be as much or as little as you would like.
So literally, she has a cold. Headcanon is now accepted. She has a cold. Nobody knows. It's just one of the varieties of cold.
Okay,
Nobody knows.
I want to be like, she's there for long-term care. What's wrong with her? Well, she's tired. She often oversleeps. She has problems with eating and, with being motivated. It's depression. No, it's a sickness.
Which is a sickness.
But it's not a physiological sickness. It's a mental sickness with physiological implications.
Yes.
And expressions.
So if you are depressed, you might want to see whether or not it's actually a depression that is, for example, something that somebody can help you treat, whether it's by getting verbal help or by getting emotional help or by getting literal drug help. There are
Or a situational change.
Yes, absolutely, which might be, again, one of those things that we've talked about where sometimes people run outside and they go, I feel so much better. And it's like, yeah, because your situation depresses you.
Because you are away from the thing that's making you unhappy. Yeah, all right.
Aha.
No one knows.
No one knows. Even the doctors are stumped.
Well, if you have symptoms and you tell them to me, as a sport-savvy, relatively medically uninformed young man, maybe I can figure out what it is.
Honestly, I will die in a corner if that ends up happening.
Right, if that's the plot.
Like, that will make me so angry with Rena's story of being like, yep, I'm a completely undereducated kid in that way. I don't have a lot of knowledge or exposure to basically hospitals or the medical process or anything else. Now, sometimes there is something to be said about having basically a layman come in and go, wow, I've only heard of a few things, but because I've had no other exposure, which is actually sometimes a thing that doctors struggle with. So it was actually an experience my dad talked about where going like, people literally fucking forget basically their training or things they ran into before or details blur together because you're human, right?
And
doctors,
with doctors, you're usually going through a ton of details and a ton of patients and a ton of education all the time.
Yep, constantly. He actually has to constantly go into like conferences, and he goes to work environment, like special work things where he learns how new current like materials and new gear, new machinery, that
new
sort of
processes,
thing. New processes, like
new
all
drugs.
the time. Oh my god, yeah, and new drugs, especially when people are pushing drugs because capitalism. But it's really important, like. To realize that many doctors also struggle with basically, I'm going to go off of my gut instinct, and their gut instinct they have literally proven for the most part actually isn't accurate. Some people are correct, obviously something is wrong, but they're usually not right about what it is. So you have to be careful, and that's one of the things where I'm like, if you're going to go and get involved, with anything to do with the medical field, if you are sick, please try to be active. Try to get somebody else who will be active with you, who will be your advocate, who will be there asking the questions, who will be there, trying to take an active role in your care if you are unable to do so.
I say it can help to have somebody who's got a list of questions you want to ask, because sometimes, or even yourself, sometimes when you're in the moment, you forget that stuff. They recommend that even for just business meetings or interpersonal meetings, to bring in a list of all the things you want to cover, because nobody remembers everything in the moment. All right,
absolutely.
The doctors are completely stumped.
Even
she
the
just
doctors
has,
are stumped.
she just lives at the hospital. That's her sickness.
I have waifish girl disease.
Or I have
waifu girl disease.
Oh my god, waifu girls. Oh my god. What you've got is
waifu.
You're admitted to the hospital. We don't know what's wrong with her. Is anything wrong with her? Well, she's a patient. Something must be wrong with her.
I know. It's like, do you even know what your symptoms are? That's actually a thing usually being like, well, because I've heard some people go, I don't know what it is.
Right.
But then you go, okay, well, but my symptoms are,
a lot of times they go, no one knows what it is, but I'm just exhausted all the time. I'm constantly nauseous. I've just been, flu-like symptoms for 3 years. Whatever.
Or they thought it was this kind of seizure, or they thought it was this Parkinson's disease, or they thought it was this thing. Like, people tend to get really specific past a point because they've been through so much. They just go, because I've been listing everything for so long. My mom has a list of that of, well, I was diagnosed with this for a while, then I was diagnosed with this for a while, then I was diagnosed with this for a while. Yeah, there's a lot of that. All right. A lot.
What do you mean by that?
I think exactly what she just said.
As in, they can't decide what kind of illness you have? I decide. Spin the wheel!
Oh my
Throw
God.
a dart! What kind does she have today? Looks like she's got endometriosis. Okay, we'll just treat that. Has she even pubescent yet? What? It doesn't matter.
Huh?
I'm sorry. What she has is testicular cancer. No, that's terrible. We need to treat it immediately. What stage? Oh, it's stage 1. Oh, good. Then she might do really well on radiation.
Oh, great. Awesome. Which you never know.
No idea. All right.
Nope, we don't know anything.
They can't decide. We just decided that what she has is hair loss. I don't know.
Hey, she's finally going into symptoms. When it first started, I just felt weak. Very weak. I have chronic waifu disease. She really does.
Oh my god. I have chronic love interest disease. I am weak and delicate and pale, and I get headaches, and sometimes I faint, and I'm very sweet, and I'm a little confused sometimes.
And sometimes I see the future.
Oh my god. Sometimes I have visions. Oh my god.
Oh my god. I'm okay. I'm okay. I am not.
I just felt very weak. Too weak to lift up your pig bun?
No, the pig bud. That's actually why I hold them. They have a weight inside of them, and then I take out weights according to how I feel, so that I have some, basically
Huh. Oh
like
God, that would be
workout
so
routine.
cute. Okay, but that would also be so cute. So like, depending on how you're feeling for the day, you just put different amounts of weights in your bunny, and so then the nurse can come by and say, Rena, how are you feeling? If you don't feel like talking, you hand over the bunny, and it has like
Aw.
only one weight in there, and they're like, oh, today is a rough day, and had the bun back.
Aw, or no weights.
Or no
And you
weights
go,
at all. And they're like,
"Oh."
oh, honey, do you need any adjustments? Can I help you with anything? That kind of thing.
Aw.
It's like sort of pointing at the little smiley chart,
Right.
but instead you hand them your bun.
Oh, that could be really adaptive. That
Mhm.
sounds kind of cute. I don't know how accurate or good it would be necessarily, but it depends. Like
It would
good,
depend
relatively
on
speaking.
how familiar someone was with your exact care.
Right.
And so if they really knew your routine, like that could work really well with a parent at home kind of thing. And then you could, or if you weren't sure, you could just open it up and count the weights inside kind of thing. Like you wouldn't necessarily know just by touching, but you're like, only 2 today. That's a kind of a rough day kind of thing.
Right.
Or, oh, none. Why are you out of bed, honey?
Oh no, baby.
He's like, I'm lost, and you're like, oh, let me help you.
Let me help you. I'm
Right.
hungry. Mom and I, we went to the local clinic, but the doctors couldn't give us a straight answer.
Only a gay answer.
I was actually going to just say that. Thank you for stealing my lines. No, it's fine. Honestly, I don't like it where they go, and doctors just couldn't give us a straight answer. I'm like, they just couldn't give you a distinct or definitive answer. Most of them will go, let's give you some ideas. But so particularly within the United States, you've got to consider that one of the biggest problems that I've noticed that my dad will also do and that I've been frustrated by, but it is an actual problem, is the reason why doctors are so vague is because they're having to deal with insurance. And they can't decide on anything definitively because that means it will go into a certain category in regards to your healthcare and how much money either they will have to pay or you will have to pay. So they usually are trying to basically not be extremely solid on one point or another. They go, it could be this thing, it could be that thing. There are several things that could fall under this. They try to make it a little bit more broad and generalized because they really do. They have to itemize literally everything for insurance, and it sucks because of private insurance.
And if you keep it broad, you can also try more things without having to do a re-diagnosis.
Which sucks.
But also there's the fear of medical malpractice, which is what I've encountered. Where you go, if I tell you you have this and you don't have it, you may bring a lawyer to my face.
Oh yeah, which is another thing too I was talking about for insurance. Insurance is terrifying because they're like, we don't as much as doctors really do eat people under sometimes with the amount of money that they will ask for from people, and I'm not saying that they might not deserve it, but part of my problem is going that I feel like it's always been too much anyway. But for me, it's going, they're really spending a lot of their time paying off insurance companies and dealing with insurance companies and getting, working together for how many they have to deal with for that month and what the deals have to be so they can have their practice, still running, that sort of thing. Like, it's really complicated.
And it's definitely different with a doctor in a community clinic than in their own private clinic. Anyway, so they couldn't give us a straight answer.
Yes. Then we tried to get a second opinion and a third and a fourth.
And 0 doctors ever could give me any
sucked.
kind of a straight answer. And by that...
Or any idea.
Or... basically, I didn't like what they had to say, and to me, it didn't feel clear enough. I've actually been been near a number of conversations with my mom where they're like, and they kept saying it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be the other thing, and we should just try stuff. And I'm going, but I want to know what it is. And that is the case. So sometimes, even though the doctor has given you what they believe to be a straight enough answer to approach your condition and to manage and then potentially cure it, you go, but I want to know exactly what it is.
There's also the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that most doctors are treating symptoms. Treating the actual cause is a really difficult thing as far as I've ever seen for people to be able to do. Like, you really do need to start, it's basically going around and trying to catch all the big holes, like the smaller holes first before you can actually, or like all the big holes before you can catch all the smaller ones first. You're trying to get rid of the largest, most noisy things. Like, so I've had sometimes like a lot of chronic pain in my back. One of the big things that they did for me was basically going, okay, where does it hurt the most? And you start there, even though that might not be your problem, because of the way that bodies like to function. They literally usually go, so it's not just, you go, oh, my toe hurts. Okay, and they solve your toe. And suddenly you go, oh no, my foot hurts. And you start realizing that your whole body is connected together and that where your pain or your issues might actually be is somewhere entirely different. Like, let's say up in your shoulder. But your body has been compensating super hard with that other side of your body.
So it's referred it all the way down and then weakened the muscles all the way down there. But if they can't deal with that, you can't get to focusing on the primary thing. In the same way that if they can't do symptom management, they can't, it's a very complex issue, but yes, that's basically the size of it, of going, your symptoms are what's getting in the way. Like,
Yeah.
if you literally have a horrific, aggressive, terrible disease in the textbook,
Right.
but you are wholly asymptomatic, then it doesn't matter that you have that disease, and no one's going to necessarily treat that disease because you don't even know you have it.
Right.
But if you go, I got this minor headache, and then they deal with your headache, and they find out when they're doing basic tests for that, they go, holy shit, your blood levels are off the charts. We need to deal with something else, or you're massively anemic or whatever.
Whoa, you've got white blood cell count that's just like ripping through everything.
Yeah, it's
like,
just, anyway, and so then they can go from there. All right, many doctors.
Months later, I found myself here in Rosewood.
So they could just keep an eye on me all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. Even the brilliant doctors here are trying to get to the bottom of this. Even the brilliant doctors here. That sounds really strange. So are you still in contact then with your previous doctor? Like, does that make sense where suddenly I'm like, this line seems unusual?
Right, so
like they wrote it on a different...
or it could be more limited than that. So, like, even these doctors, as in going, like, the other doctors didn't, or they wouldn't normally. These doctors wouldn't normally dig in so much.
Even the brilliant doctors here are trying to get to the bottom of this, and it's like, did the other ones not try? Well, they're trying, but I don't understand.
Or the other ones are still trying. Everyone's trying. There's a massive conglomerate of doctors with Rena posted on the wall that they focus on it all the time.
Right? They got her blood work up, blah, blah, blah.
Everything. We've got x-rays, we've got blood work, we've got tests, we've got, scans, we've got samples, everything.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to monitor everything. And we're just going, nothing's wrong, but she feels weak. It is the depression.
It might be. God, that would, like... Honestly, sometimes it has been really fascinating to watch what happens to some people when they are just super depressed. Like, the amount of, like, basically bodies breaking down in reference to depression has been wild. When I've seen some people, like, just in bad relationships, right? And they're like, I'm just really tired, I'm exhausted all the time, my body hurts, blah, 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 whatever. And you watch them, and finally they get out of that relationship. Like, they are physically ill, right? You watch them get out of that situation, and suddenly... It's like they never even knew what being sick was. Like, they had just immediately this lift from being depressed, and everything else goes with it. And you just kind of go, holy crap, you were, like, really, like sick.
Yeah, they go from the depression basically making them exhausted and having chronic pain and being unable to focus, having memory issues, having trouble, planning things, being unable to wake up, sleeping way too much, all of these kind of experiencing chronic drowsiness, lack of motivation, and just, getting sore and uncomfortable all the time,
poor
or feeling weak, that kind of thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they get out of it, and as soon as they're given their own freedom and, and basically that absence of the weight that's on them, and I say, like, it can take a couple of months, but it's a wild turnaround.
Yeah, it is.
And you go, holy crap, I don't even recognize you. And they're like, I don't know what it is. And a lot of times they don't have the awareness of what it is. They're like, I suddenly just feel so well. My mom had a friend who was chronically ill, that she had this experience where, and my mom's known a number of people that are chronically ill, that when they get depressed, it gets massively exacerbated, the condition of whatever, they have. And I don't want to be like naming people and their specific, experiences and stuff, because
it is private.
It is private, and also things can present very differently in different people. But even if it's something like Epstein-Barr virus, of going, the symptoms that come along with it just go into spades when the person is unhappy.
Yeah.
And they largely diminish to very manageable, very like good quality of life kind of levels when the person is happy.
Yeah.
And so
it's pretty impressive.
All right, everyone's trying to get to the bottom of this. We just need to find the bottom.
Sometimes I feel like a science experiment.
Yeah, well, that sounds rough and reasonable.
It sounds like you get poked a lot, and it's probably not fun, and I am really sorry. Yeah. I really want to know what's wrong with me.
Yeah? Are you still just tired all the time? We shouldn't pry, probably. Well, we just got up in her face.
For some reason.
Yeah, like, I really want to know what's wrong with me. And we just get up into her face, like, whoa. Her eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't let a single drop fall. Get back in
traitorous
there,
tears. She has traitorous tears.
But they won't fall.
Hi, I'm strong. I will work hard to be better, mister.
I will hold my weighted bun.
Yay. And then I will beat people with it.
Yes.
Even if at times I feel super weak. That's really all you could give her for her symptoms?
You couldn't be specific.
I understand sometimes symptoms belie the greater issues underneath. But I am deeply frustrated sometimes because I'm like, it's usually in my experience not just being tired.
On the
There
other
is
hand,
a series of other issues that go with it, like we have mentioned. Like sometimes your memory goes with something. Sometimes you literally have sensitivity. Sometimes you literally have some sort of basically temporary fibromyalgia experience. We have chronic pain that just won't go away.
I'm also just gonna play WebMD here, and I'm like, okay, she's extremely pale, she's craving chocolate all the time, and she's exhausted, anemic, deeply anemic. Like
Yep.
I have known, I've had minor anemia a couple of times in my life, and I've known several people with anemic outbursts, whatever.
Mhm.
And craving chocolate, as far as I understand, is a fairly common symptom. Now it's not ubiquitous, but it is one of those things where they go, I just can't stop wanting, chocolate things. And and it's basically this misunderstanding of where iron is placed, for like how our senses perceive it in some people, like either a smell or taste kind of thing.
Right.
Your body going, I need something, and cacao kind of mimics that the way, unlike where if a lot of people eat a whole lot more like chicken or red meat or things like that, they can get iron from it.
Right.
Or green vegetables, actually, like dark green ones, supposed to have a lot of iron.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That's actually one of the big ones they recommend. I was gonna say, she does actually sound really super anemic to me as well, which is also one of those things you go, this is a little frustrating. Because again, it's just like we just were trying to come up with some sort of fantasy waifu disease, and we can't really give it any terms or any ideas because then we'd actually have to do research, and then we'd actually have to write it properly and give it its due, blah blah.
All right. So, quote Scandal 2020, fantasy waifu disease.
Hey! Fantasy waifu disease.
All right, guys. Well, we will find out if she can stop feeling super weak at some point ever in the next one.
Yes. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi or our Patreon. We got some in the description down below. Also, please feel free to save us from the algorithm. We would appreciate it if you'd like to share our videos and start a conversation with somebody. That would help us quite a lot. Plus, also maybe bring some more voices in on these conversations. Yay! Yep. So other than that, I have been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!